What is going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in back to the channel. Today we are actually going to be talking you through the entire process of what we experienced when pulling the motor out of the Miata and also replacing the rod bearings inside of them. So we're going to take you along with us. Hope you like the video. To be specific, our car is a 95 M edition. It's a 1.8 Miata. Now this might interfere with 1.6s. I'm not too sure if the process is the exact same, but it should be fairly close, considering all the parts are interchangeable theoretically. When we bought the Miata, it seemed awesome. It had a slight misfire, so we couldn't really hear that it actually had rod knock, which completely sucked once we got it running perfect. It was just ready to go into paint, and then Alina's uncle said, "Oh wait, I hear rod knock." Revved it up, and sure enough, he was right. So to start this off, in order to diagnose a spun bearing, you will hear a fluctuation of a certain noise at a certain RPM. It's kind of hard to rule out whether or not something is a rod bearing. You just kind of have to know what it sounds like originally, not to get confused with lifter tick, which we'll put in a clip of what lifter tick sounds like. If you have a Miata, you probably know what that is. And if not, that's fine. Now you know. So the first step in order to getting this problem situated and fixed was to pull the motor, obviously. We basically disconnected the power plant frame, we disconnected the harnesses, the fuel lines, and the electrical components. We pulled the transmission and the motor out completely. It was a lot easier taking out the headers first, but it isn't required. Once the motor was out, which was very, very time consuming, well, very nerve-wracking, I should say. It wasn't hard at all. It was actually extremely easy, but the fact that you're taking out something and in your head you're thinking, will it go back in? Will it run when I put this back together? That was the scary part. If you can get past that, you're golden. Rip that thing out and get to work. Keep in mind, this was our first time. Me and Alina did this together as a team. Ended up being Alina for like a majority after the motor was pulled. Woo! But she did a great job on it. Now, in order to do these bearings, there's something that you need first. You need assembly lube. This is going to ensure that when you do crank up the motor for the first time, it's technically dry and it's not going to spin again. So lubrication is very, very, very vital in this process. You also need a torque wrench. Go out and get a torque wrench. Get a decent one at least. Home Depot, Lowe's, something along those lines, $60, $70 range. It's gonna ensure that you don't snap a bolt and make your job even harder than it is. Now, bearings. Where do you get bearings? Online you can get bearings. Treasure Coast Miata, I believe, has bearings. You can get them from the Mazda dealership, which I don't recommend because they're way too pricey. Mazda is overpriced in general. We ended up going to a local parts store down the street from us, Tampa Auto. They had the rod bearings for about $25 for the entire set, so that was really nice, very inexpensive. And we learned how to plastic gauge. But plastic gauge is actually a small piece of, it looks like floss. You put it in between the caps, and when you torque it down, you measure it, how wide it got, and that's going to show you how much clearance there is in the oil. One thing to note, one thing you should be doing is think about all the things you want to replace while the motor's out. Motor mounts. Are you going to want to do that when the motor's in the car already? Probably not, because it takes 2 seconds to take the motor mounts out once the motor is out of the car. It's very simple. All the external O-rings, like your fuel rail, that was like $5. Cam angle sensor was leaking, so we replaced that. The oil filter housing, which was a pain to find because no one understood exactly which one it was, ended up finding the part at AutoZone. Valve cover gaskets should also be replaced. We got these off of eBay. It was a Felpro brand. Felpro makes really, really good gaskets. If you have a little bit extra money to spend, don't cheap out on gaskets. You pay $5 more and you get better quality. It's going to last you a lot longer. Now, while the motor is out, you also want to take off the clutch and the transmission. This will give you access to the rear main seal, which you can replace for like $5 for a Felpro O-ring, as well as a clutch. If your clutch is bad or your flywheel needs to be resurfaced, now is the time to do that. When we pulled that off, we saw that we had a rear main seal leak. We replaced that gasket, cleaned everything up. It was good to go at that point. The transmission was super, super oily. We cleaned that off. Actually, Alina cleaned it off, re-gasketed the transmission shaft seal, I believe it's called, and that would also ensure that we got no oil on the clutch if it got worse. Now, when we dropped the transmission off of the motor, the clutch was actually okay. It was a rebuilt trans with a new clutch, but the throw-out bearing looked a little bit toasty, so we threw that new one on there. Here's a big one. timing belt, and water pump kit. Get a decent one. Gates makes one for about $110. Comes with everything you need, all the gaskets, little tiny gaskets that you would overlook. It's basically a front end reseal of the motor. No more leaks whatsoever. So we threw the motor back in once Ryan was ready to help us actually get that thing in there. Took quite a while. We replaced some more hoses and gaskets and fuel lines, things like that we just wanted to make new again. And there's the first startup. See if it cranks. Yeah, we got pressure. Oh, there is pressure. Yo, we got pressure. Now that the car's built up oil pressure, putting the coil packs in, or the spark plug wires in, that's gonna make it start. It better start, fingers crossed. All right, do the honors, Selena.
Oh, baby.
Oh man. Oh, we got an exhaust leak, that's for sure.
Sorry.
Such a good feeling to actually get that motor going. Obviously you can hear the exhaust leak. I think we got kind of lucky being our first time there and not really having any guidance other than Ryan helping us pull and put the motor back in. If you have any questions, be sure to hit us up on Instagram. We love to help out our supporters. If you need anything, if any way we can help, we're here to help you guys. If you guys enjoyed this style video, let us know down below. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and we'll catch you guys next time. Take it easy.